relationships and communication are kind of like the foundation of life if you think about it. Even with God, it's a relationship.
I think in order to perform at a high level, it's a holistic approach. There's a lot of components to that.
Yeah.
Right. So like from being an agent and being in sales, performance can be, I need to pick up the phone. I need to talk to people. I need to understand how to talk to people. There has to be investment, and that's if I'm off there, my performance at work isn't going to be as high. If my performance at work stinks, my performance at home is going to be off because now I'm fixated on it.
Yeah, let me open up in prayer here, guys. Father, I thank you for another incredible episode. Just the opportunity that I get to record these podcasts and bring on incredible individuals like I have with me here today. And I just release the Holy Spirit into this conversation, into the time we have, into every single person listening to this podcast right now. And I pray over my guest. Ryan, I always like to say that God has just put such unique gifts inside of you. And I believe that today you have an opportunity to impart those gifts into others. And I am believing and expecting that in the conversation we have today, that our lives are going to be made better because of your willingness to show up. So, Father, I just pray a hedge of protection around this episode, that no weapon formed against it shall come to prosper, no time constraint with the venue, no technological things, no batteries dying on cameras, but that there is a supernatural covering in the conversation today. I pray over Ryan and myself that we may have a spirit of courage and a spirit of boldness and a sound mind and wisdom to speak what you have given us to speak today. Bless our time and our fellowship in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, guys, let me intro our incredible guest that we have on today. Now, Ryan Riell is a guy I admire a lot, a guy that I go grab coffee with at least every couple months. We go to the same church. He's been a part of a few programs that I have, but what I admire the most about you is that you're a man of integrity. You're a man with a good heart. You're an incredible father to your beautiful girls. You're an incredible husband to your wife. And even though it's not easy, and we've had conversations, and we probably will today, and we talked about marriage, and we've talked about life, you continue to live that out. The world needs more men being men. The world needs more men leading their home like you do. And you're also in real estate, you're a professional, you're diligent with your work, with your hands, with what God has given to you. Guys, Ryan went through my social media class. This guy is constantly posting, constantly giving market updates, constantly serving his clients. And I just know that the hand of the diligent is continuously blessed. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, man, it's an honor to have you on here. So, Ryan, I like to ask a lot in my podcast. There's a few things I want to ask to take this conversation and this journey that we're going to take others on with us today. But one that I love hearing is really a heart posture of each person and a kind of a belief system they have around what do you actually value most in your life?
It would definitely be family. Family, the kids, marriage. And then from the business perspective, just being able to serve others, to be able to help them take territory for themselves, to own their own property. I think the heart posture is just to be fruitful and to be faithful. That would be the big one.
Yeah. And when you say family as the first thing, what does family mean to you? Why family?
I think without family, you're just there. Once you have the family, you value what that is. Before you have it, you know what it is. You've heard about it. You've been a part of it. But once you have your own family, I think you see just how great that is.
Yeah.
You see that there's a tremendous amount of great experiences. There's a tremendous amount of difficult experiences. There's a lot of good times, a lot of challenges, and the call to leadership inside of the family is just spectacular. It's the most difficult thing that I've ever had in my life. It is the best thing I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
And then you said to be fruitful and be faithful. Can you expound upon that?
A lot of that's more of a work thing with where I'm at right now, is being fruitful in work, continuing to produce results, to produce transactions, which accomplishes a lot of different things. First and foremost is it's helping families buy their own property. It's having their own house. It's having moms having their own family gatherings in their kitchen. It's having dads being able to do what they want to do in the backyard without having to ask permission. It's kids having their own room in their house. That's a big deal. And it's sometimes it's at the other end. People are selling a house, whether they're moving out of state, they're moving to a different area, different house, whatever that is. So it's a very stressful situation. So being able to provide less stress to the families that are going through this, because I do this all the time, I'm able to take a lot of that stress. I'm able to deflect that from people. So being fruitful is helping the people through that, shepherding through that process. But then it's also the people that are a part of my team, right?
Yeah.
Being able to provide business that has the money to compensate them, so they can provide for their families, so they can live their life, and they can do what they're doing. And then fruitful, ultimately, tithing, and then any offerings on top of that is just taking the skill set with business and being able to build the kingdom with that is just the cherry on top.
Yeah, I love that. And we live in a church that empowers us to be territory takers, to be good stewards of what God's given us, to multiply, to be fruitful, to be able to write the check, right? And I love that, right? Like the ideology of the Christian home and Christian dad and the illustration and the movies and all these things and the pictures have depicted a man that loves God, loves his wife, loves his children, to be a weak man, to be a non-fruitful man, to live a poor life, a non-abundant life. What do you think about that?
That's not for me. I don't want that for me or my family.
Don't sign me up for that.
Yeah, you can keep that if that's your thing. Go ahead. I don't know. That was religion to me. That was church to me before coming to Awaken. Where it was suffering and being very modest, having a modest lifestyle was what you were called to, and it's like, no, that's not. That's kind of a perverse version of the gospel. Prosperity is a theme throughout the entire gospel, and it's really the heart posture of where you are in the process of making the money and in the process of doing business, but it's more important, what are you doing with that, right? If my goal is to simply make as much money as I can so I can have as much for me, I can buy nice things only for my wife, only for my kids, buy another car, another vacation house, and that's all that the focus is, I feel that's very selfish. It's very that's the opposite of we're going to live not necessarily a poverty life, but we're going to live a more modest life, which a lot of churches will talk about. So it's a thing of, I like to feel that I'm absolutely blessed, without a doubt. I know that I am. Yeah. And so I can be blessed to be blessed, or I can be a blessing. I can be blessed to be a blessing to others. Yeah. And so that's my goal, whether it be with skill set, and I'm blessed with certain skill sets. I have the ability to use those in the marketplace to help families to accomplish their goals. And I also, with that I'm compensated well. And so obviously I'm able to provide for my family, but I'm also able to write checks that are more than I used to make in a month before I got into real estate as a tithing check. It's being able to give offerings. It's being able to build that kingdom is where I feel that God is really calling the marketplace for those of us that are in it with the kingdom mindset is, I'm going to bless you to be a blessing to others.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that. In this season of your life, right now, today, what do you feel God is calling you to speak on or to talk about?
It's a good question. I knew you were going to ask that. I'm like, I don't have a great answer to that.
And it could be the simplest of things.
Yeah, I think it really just, it comes down to relationships and communication. I think that's the biggest thing right now is relationships are what matter, whether it's, your relationship with your wife or your spouse, relationship with kids, relationship with your parents, with siblings, with aunts and uncles, with whatever that is. But it's also relationships with friends, with people in community with. and it's also relationships in business, right? And so that is great, but the level of the relationship is going to depend upon the level of rapport you have with someone, right? If you and I only just high-fived each other as we passed each other at church or whatever that is, there's not a lot of rapport there, right? Like, we wouldn't be sitting here, we wouldn't go get coffee, we wouldn't do that. And so that comes with communication, right? And so can two people communicate effectively with each other? And it's just, I think it's the hierarchy is starting with the communication, which will put you in the rapport with somebody. And from there, you're developing a relationship. It could be, a marriage. It could be a father or a mother relationship with a child. It can be a friendship. It can be a business relationship.
Yeah.
That's the key.
I love that. Relationships and communication are kind of like the foundation of life if you think about it. Even with God, it's a relationship that requires communication.
Yes, it does.
To actually live in intimacy with our Father.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife. You ain't going to have a good marriage if you don't have a good relationship and good communication with your wife. I'm learning that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have a good relationship with your kids if you don't, or friends. And man, I used to say all the time, like, relationships are the foundation to business.
Mm-hmm.
Because the longer I've been in business, the more I realize it's my ability to build relationships in this space. And yes, I need to be skilled. And yes, I need to be good at something. And yes, I need a product and a service that solves their problem. But they only will do business with me if they trust me and they like me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a relationship. It's, you will not buy, I don't know about you, but I won't buy anything from anyone I don't trust and like.
I agree, and that's how your and our business relationship started. Where I can get on any social media platform and find however many different advertisements for, let me show you how to do this.
Yeah.
And you see enough of that, you start to just become very skeptical, because some are going to be good, some are not. And I knew that you would. I think I'd started following you on Instagram before we really ever connected and had a substantial conversation. And so you see the person online, and then I got to meet you and we had coffee the first time. We sat there we were like, let's have a 30-minute coffee, and it turned into like an hour and a half.
Right.
And it was like, this dude's exactly like he is on Instagram. There's nothing fake about this. He is absolutely the same person, and that builds a lot of trust. If you have two completely different demeanors, there's a disconnect there. Yeah. And so it was, we spent a lot of time talking, not about business, but just having conversations about life and whatever else. Before that, you started that class that Christy and I hopped into, and even Christy was like, what is this? Like, I see stuff for this. Is this the best option? And I'm like, I trust Cody in what he's doing and the integrity in which he's doing things. So yes, I think this is the guy we go with. Yeah.
And then you flip that to real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let's look at your profession. Mm-hmm. Bunch of realtors. Mm-hmm. Who do you choose? Yeah. The one that you have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. Now, it's hard when you have a relationship with a bunch, but you really, the one that invests into that relationship has good communication, nurtures you, and you also know is going to be very competent at what they're doing for you, and help deflect some of that stress of buying a home or selling a home, which is a big deal, big life event. I love that, man. And I feel like something that's kind of more practical to give people in the sphere of relationships and communication. What are 3 things you feel you do really well? And what is one mistake that you've made?
3 did I do well? We're talking in the context of business?
In context of relationship communication. Could be anything. Nothing's off limits, but within relationship and communication.
All right. So let's lead with what I don't do well.
Get that one out of the way.
Spend some time there, because it's always, you can always figure out what you do well, right? And you understand why you're doing it well, because then you can do it again. But if you can't learn from when you screw things up, you're going to keep screwing things up.
Right.
And so the thing that I have gotten better at, but I still have a long way to go, and I think everybody does, is it's the ability to understand what the other person is saying. And that can be the simple words, like, "What, I didn't hear you," but it's also, where is this coming from, right? What's driving this? To really understand, what is this person trying to tell me? Where are they coming from with this? What are they trying to accomplish, right? And that can be in marriage, right? Because if I don't take the time to understand what my wife is saying, good luck. And if I'm not listening and to understand what somebody's telling me on the phone in the context of buying a house, I come off as very shallow. I come off as very agenda-driven. and I'm not going to develop that relationship. So seeking to understand before wanting to be understood. And I think that's something that I have always struggled with. I've gotten a lot better at that. But there's still times when like you probably should have asked a couple more questions.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the business part is the business part, right? In the real estate world, if I screw that up, I'm never going to talk to that person again because they're not going to answer the phone the next time I call them, and we move on from that and we'll find someone else to talk to. Right? Hopefully we can be aware of that. We can learn from that. But it's a thing of where if you're doing that in your relationships that are more personal, if you're doing that with your wife, if you're doing that with your children, you get very out of rapport. There's a fracture in that relationship. And so it's always, what else am I not? Like unless there's just perfect alignment with your understanding of what's going on, you've been there, you've had that conversation before, things aren't perfectly lined up, right? If you try to take two photos and merge them perfectly over each other, it could be off by a millimeter, but the road's going to look like it's fractured. And so it's making sure that you're asking the questions to understand thoroughly, especially in a marriage, especially with children. And thankfully you're born with newborns who can't communicate, and you grow into being a parent. Because if I had to
gives you a little time there.
It gives you a long runway. Because if we had to start with a teenager, dear Lord,
communicating with your wife about the children's another thing.
And there's layers to this. So it's really just understand and it's just communication. You know, there's we were doing a training event this morning, and a lot of new agents will get stuck, right? They have a script in their mind, and they're really trying to read off of it. And they'll get stuck because the conversation doesn't follow. And there's just two very simple questions that I would tell an agent in that situation, or anyone else, is, tell me more about that. Or why is that important to you? Two super simple questions. Now, Christy knows that I do that now. Because
I used it on her.
Can you tell me more about that? And so she initially, I started using that a lot with her, and she started getting very frustrated.
When I was in timeshare sales for Wyndham, we'd call it timesharing somebody. Mm-hmm. And then your significant other will stop and be like, are you timesharing me right now?
There are some strategies in sales that I do use on Christy that I will not tell you right now because she's not picked up
might
on
listen
them.
To this.
She might watch this. You're going to find out that they're good. But it's just like initially she'd get really like, why do you keep asking me that? I'm like, because I want to know more. I want to
right, because you're seeking knowledge. But the heart actually behind it is actually what you said you struggled with, is seeking to understand. Yeah. And How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, incredible book.
Great book.
The greatest lesson you take away is seek first to understand, then be understood. Become genuinely interested in someone else, and they'll become genuinely interested in you. Sounds super easy. Practical terms, walking it out requires restraint.
Oh, yeah.
Requires discipline. Requires inquiry, asking questions. Listening, 2 ears, 1 mouth. I used to hate being told that, man. I'm a talker.
Yep.
I have mentors. Cody, 2 ears, 1 mouth. I know. Now I'm older, and I'm like, they're so right. Okay, so that was the mistake.
Yeah, so what do I do well in relationships?
Yeah, and it could be some practical tips that you're giving us.
Well, in line with that, I listen better. I'm better at listening. Patience, being patient. I think that also just comes into, that can be tied right into understand, right? Have the patience to understand, right? It's also have the patience to let something work itself out, right? Not everything in a situation has to be immediately handled or controlled, right? You don't immediately have to, like, unless someone's shooting at you, right? Like you can take a couple minutes and let this play out. You can let the emotions calm down. And so it's the patience to do that. Really just the ability to be able to detach from a situation. Because when there's a saying I heard somebody put out there a while ago where it's really hard to read the label of a bottle when you're in the bottle. And so if you're going through something and you're just in that situation, you're in that circumstance, you're in that conversation, you're in that transaction, you're in that fight, you're in that disagreement, you're emotionally sucked into that, right? You're inside of a Coke bottle, right? And if someone said to you, hey, what does it say on the outside of the bottle? Like, you're looking up and you're seeing the back of the label, right? And so being able to detach from that is to be able to take that step back out of the bottle, right? The fight's still there. It's not going anywhere, right? The transaction's there. Whatever's going on is still in the bottle. But being able to take a step back and you can then read the label of the bottle, right? It's, Jocko Willink talks about this a lot. And it's, be able to detach, to take a step back and like just look around at the bigger picture. right? Because there's a lot of times people just will get so hyper focused on some small little detail, and that becomes their hill that they're going to stand on and die on, and it's like that's not that important. But when you're emotionally sucked into something and there's this emotional vortex going, you're caught up in that. And if
Yeah.
you can't take a step back, you're not going to be able to see something that 2 days later you're going to be like, oh my God, why did I even, like, what was that even about?
Yeah.
So I think that would be the three.
That's so
Yeah.
good. I love that. I'm going to rapid fire a couple questions to you. You ready?
All right.
Greatest piece of marriage advice?
Listen more than you talk.
Greatest piece of financial advice?
Be faithful with what's given to you and steward it well.
Greatest piece of career advice?
Seek out a mentor. Seek out multiple mentors. So there's the mentor of, I want to get to here, right? So someone's starting at the ground level and I want to get to here. You're not going to go from starting a job to here, right? You're not going to go from, I just got hired in a sales position, I'm a brand new nurse, whatever that is. You're not going to go from there to being the CEO, right? There's a lot of steps along the way. So it's have that mentor that you can talk to, but also have somebody that is at an intermediate level that has accomplished the first major leap of where you're wanting to go. Because they're going to have the real world advice that will take you from where you are to where they are, and you have to get to where they are before you have any chance of going up the ladder further. So find the big picture mentor, but also find the mentor who has recently been where you are, and recently could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it depends on the industry.
Yeah.
But can get you to where they currently are, because that's going to be the best, most tactical advice, where the strategic advice is going to be going up to the higher echelons of where you're wanting to go.
So good. What would be your greatest piece of advice for ministry?
Read the Bible. You have to read the Bible. You can listen to it, I guess. Some people like listening to it. Pastor Sam loves listening to it instead of reading it. I think he reads along with it, just in case he's watching this.
I love Pastor Sam.
Yeah, he's awesome. But it's being in the Word. It's being in the Word. And the nice thing about it is, it's a pretty thick book. You can read through that multiple times, and you're just going to keep... The worldly view is you're going to keep picking up on things that you missed, right? The kingdom view would be things are going to be highlighted to you that you missed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing. One of the biggest, most practical things was part of one of I think it was Pastor Lance through Awaken You, had said, the first thing that I do in the morning when I pick up my phone after I turn off the alarm is I open up the Bible app. I open up something that has scripture in it, and that's the first thing I do. I start my day there. I don't start with Instagram. I don't start with my email.
So good.
I don't start with text messages. And I started to apply that, and it most certainly has not hurt anything. But it also, I think it's just provided a tremendous amount of value.
You ever had where what you read in the Bible, because I'm doing this now, first thing, there's something that speaks to you that later that day, that wisdom you got from the Word helped you in that situation?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've had one the other day. We had ministry training on Monday night over at Balboa.
I was there.
And yeah, so remember Pastor Teresa was talking about that scripture in Jude, where it was, had to do with praying in the Spirit. And so the next morning I pull up the Bible app, turn it on, it was that exact scripture.
Talk about confirmation.
Yeah. I was like, okay, gotcha.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What would be your greatest piece of parenting advice?
You're going to make mistakes. Don't keep making them. You will make mistakes. I think everyone's going to say that. But I think here's another one everyone's going to say. Here's the other side, right? If that's a negative, here's the positive. It can be very hard to be present with all of the devices we have, all of the dopamine hits we get off of looking at our phone. It's easy to get distracted from work. One of the biggest things that I seek prayer on, like at Men's Prayer, is help me be more present with where I'm at. So if I'm at work, let me be at work. But when I'm at home, let me be at home. Let me leave work to its side. And so it's being present, being engaged. And if you ask Christy, she'd tell me I need to do a better job, and she's right. That's advice that we don't like to hear as husbands and as men.
Right.
But they might see something, they might be a little detached from the situation and giving you advice. But you have such a short little window. You have such a short little window of just awesome time with kids before they really start to, have friends. They want to,
Yeah.
be doing their own thing. There was somebody I was talking to the other day that has a couple young kids. It was Tommy. I was talking to Tommy,
Yeah.
and his son is getting into that 3, almost 4 range, somewhere there. And it's like, man, you're just getting into the good part, right? Like kids up till 2 are they're kids,
Right.
right? You get to be, that 2 to 3, now they start to have words. They get to 3, now they have opinions. It's like, oh boy, okay. And
Yeah.
they think that you just are the best thing ever, and you can do no wrong as a dad, you can do no wrong as a mom, and you have that short window, so just be as present as you can.
So good. What piece of advice would you give to improving like high performance, productivity?
I think in order to perform at a high level, it's a holistic approach. There's a lot of components to that,
Yeah.
right? So like from being an agent and being in sales, performance can be, I need to pick up the phone. I need to talk to people. I need to understand how to talk to people. I need to be able to sit down with them and show the value that I bring in a fashion well enough that they're going to agree to work with me, instead of the other agents that are here in San Diego. If you live in San Diego and you don't know an agent, you don't have any friends. You can throw a stick at the beach in the summer and you'll hit at least 3 agents before the stick hits the ground.
Facts.
Absolutely. And so, it's being able to do that. And then, being able to negotiate, doing all the parts of being a realtor. And if that's the only thing that I do, the rest of my life suffers, right? And so you have, what relationships do I have, right? It's like with mine, I'm married. I'm not going to have a relationship with my wife. I have 3 little girls. They're all 3 different little girls instead of all the same one. And so it takes, there has to be time, there has to be investment, and that's if I'm off there, my performance at work isn't going to be as high. If my performance at work stinks, my performance at home is going to be off, because now I'm fixated on work. And then I think you can go into that with the spiritual side of it, where you, with just the peace that comes from being a son of the Father. And then you also have everything from diet to exercise. I think all of this has to be in alignment in order to really have high performance,
because you could reach that peak state.
Because you could be just absolutely stellar at work. You could be a phenomenal husband and a phenomenal father, and if you are 50 pounds overweight, you can't walk up a set of stairs without being winded, where is that going to come into play?
Now, you recently started stepping back into fitness.
I did.
What actually sparked it?
What sparked it was having a hard time playing with my kids. I wasn't able to really get down onto the floor and to really play with them. Picking them up was a physical struggle. It came from, I broke my back a couple years ago, and it just, the recovery of the physical break and getting that realigned was relatively quick in the grand scheme of things. But it's the musculature, right? So there's kind of a correlation to like high performance, right? It's like, okay, cool, like the spine's good, right? Like you're no longer broken. Unless something strange happens, you're not going to continue breaking this. So you're good. You can perform, right? Everything's lined up. Okay, cool. All the musculature that had just wasted away over an entire year to year and a half of trying to get this figured out was just gone. I had no muscle. It was absolutely horrific. And so I was just in constant pain. And initially it was like, this is from the break, but there became a point where, like Dr. Matt, for example, was like, dude, your back's not broken, right? Like you need to get stronger. And so it's like, well, no, this is this. And I just wanted to argue with him. Like, what are you doing? he's the doctor.
Wise counsel.
Yeah, it's like, listen to someone who might know what they're saying. And so, he kept urging that. And, he's going to treat me when I show up. And so he's not going to turn me away. And so it got to a point where being able to do things, right? I think Addie was 5 at that point. And so it was like, I can't go do things with you. And this is not okay with me, right? Like you're going to you're going to keep growing up. You're going to start to do more athletic things. She had gotten into softball, and it's like I can barely throw a ball. I can barely swing a bat. I just can't do anything.
Wow.
And I don't want to live the rest of my life that way. And so it was clear, like the physical issue, the broken part, that's fixed. That's off the table. That can't be a crutch anymore. And so I just came to the realization, the conclusion of I can choose my pain. I can choose the pain of sitting around and being overweight. I think I ballooned up to probably like 210, from probably, I don't know, $175, $180, somewhere there. Was just eating poorly, was just not in a good spot. Physically was just a mess. Couldn't do anything. Or I could choose the pain of it's gonna hurt in the gym. And so it just finally, there was a point at which it's like, you know what? We're gonna go hurt there instead of hurting sitting on the couch. And so signed up for like a 6-month membership at the gym and got a little app that had a workout program on it. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go. And I knew enough from my past career to not just go full ham on it right off the bat. It's like, if we go crazy, we're going to be sore for a week and a half, and I'm not going back to the gym. Like, I know that. I've seen that movie. And so it was just, I remember the first time that I had to do squats, the program was like, do back squats, like the bar. I'm like, nope, we're not. So I just grabbed a couple, I think I had 20 or 25 pound dumbbells in each hand and had them up on the shoulders, kind of in this position, and had a bench that I was basically going to squat down to when my butt hit the bench, I'd come back up. The first set, I think it was probably like 3 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 10. And like in the grand scheme, 25 pound dumbbells for a dude is like, you better be able to do that without having to cry about it. And so I go to do the first set, and the amount of pain through my core was just horrific. I'm like, what the is going on? And so it just highlighted like you have no strength left. Right, you can't do a squat. You can't connect your hips and your lower body to your upper body and move in that movement without being muscular through the core, without having the strength there. And so that was a very big point where it's like, this is why you can't do anything with your kids, is because it hurts to sit down on the floor. It hurts even more to get up, and you just can't get comfortable because you have no musculature to support your freaking body. And so it was just a process. I started it in May of 2023. And I would say that it probably through August, every time I did squats, which was about once a week or so, which I was always just dreaded leg day, because I'm like, this just hurts. The weight got better, got up to 40, 45, 50 pounds in each hand. And one day, I went and did the squats, and I got done and just moved to the next exercise. And it was probably took a couple hours after being done with the workout to realize that didn't hurt when I did the squats, right? Like, it became about like my legs, right? It became about like what you're trying to accomplish with the squat, not like, wow, you can't squat down holding anything because you have no musculature. And so it's gone from there. My diet still stinks, if you ask my wife especially, but she's kind of a freaky athlete anyways. So it's, the diet's getting there, but it was good. It was good. Back to being strong. Yeah. The nicest thing, I knew I was good when we went to chapel with Addie and the twins at the academy they go to, and they'll play a couple songs. And so when we were last year before that, when we were at the Awaken Academy, they would do that, and she always wants me to hold her when they're doing the worship music. So it was just a challenge to just stand there and to just physically grit through it, to hold her, and if she's moving, like, please don't move. Just sit here. This is hard. And so it was probably, it must have been in September or so, she jumped up into my arms, and they were doing a kid song, and they like a warm-up, get all the wiggle out thing. Then they did a more traditional worship song. And, they're doing all these arm motions, and I just found myself just absolutely moving in a way that it's at more than a few points through that process, and like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And it was just like, I got completely done with it. Chrissy's just looking at me, and she's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, we're good. Why? And she's like, you don't normally move like that. I'm like, no, we're good. So,
come on.
Yeah.
Dude, pain of discipline up front or pain of regret later?
Choose your pain.
Yeah, choose your hard.
Choose your hard.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And that's cool to see. And I'm sure that's unlocking things inside of you of what's possible. Because we buy into a belief system of limitations.
Yeah.
and you almost like, man, well, maybe I just don't have a strong back, and maybe I don't have a strong core, and maybe because I broke my back, I can't do this. I have this scar on my knee, this nasty one. I knocked my kneecap out when I was 13, and I had a belief system, even up into my early 20s, that I didn't like doing squats, didn't like doing things like that, because I had bought into a limitation of a belief system that I'll never be able to do it like everyone else because of that injury. And that is the greatest lie I ever told myself. Now I actually I do some stuff with Vival Group with Daniel Wilgenbush, and I've created who I am 10 years from now. And dude, I'm gonna run Ironmans. Like, I'm gonna run marathons. I'm gonna run Ironmans, completely defy the limitation of that. It's such a false belief system. Because right now, I can run. I'm pretty in shape, dude. I'm not cardiovascular and like endurance and stamina. Not so much. I've been lifting heavier, putting on weight, but I can run. The problem is 3-4 miles into a run, my knee swells up like a balloon. It's not used to it, right? It hurts. It's painful. The next day hurts to walk on it. But I know if I just trained it and I just work through it, that my body will adjust, my knee will get more used to it, it'll get more limber, it'll actually get more lubricated too, because you're moving the joint more and things like that. And my subconscious mind will actually go, well, we went 3 miles, now we went 4, then we go 5, and we go 6, and you eventually get up there. You're like, wow, I just ran more than I've ever ran in my entire life, and I actually don't feel that bad. And you just keep pushing that and pushing that and pushing that. And then I look at that, right? And what other area of your life do you have an excuse of, I broke my back? Finances, marriage, parenthood, right?
All of it. Yeah, it's all there.
Is that unlocking stuff for you? Like breaking through that? Is that helping you in other areas of your life? Have you experienced that yet?
I think that the physical fitness part of it was unlocked by breaking off another belief with that in business. I think that it was, going through Pathfinders, and right after that, like my business just absolutely exploded.
Come on.
And it was, initially it's like, this is really cool. I'm busy, like I got work to do. And, a lot of people that I work with were kind of like, all right, well, like, cool, like do that next month also, and then, oh, you did it too, okay, do it next month. And all of a sudden you just start stacking this together, and it's the consistency of it, right? And so that really was I think that was the big unlocking piece, and I think that probably led to, you just have to go do it. You have to stop coming up with excuses, right? And so I think that both of those in conjunction, I think that the physical fitness part will definitely unlock things. I think we're just waiting to see what that is specifically going to unlock.
And just that mindset of pushing through and doing what's hard up front creates breakthrough. You're struggling financially. Real estate's been tough for y'all. Well, continue to put in the work. You will reap what you sow. Oh, yeah. Sometimes some seed takes a little longer to grow, but it's growing. You ever heard of Les Brown talks about this so well? And if you ever listen to Les Brown, he's a motivational speaker, one of my favorite. The Chinese bamboo tree. You ever heard of that? And they bury the seed, they water it for 5 years, it never sprouts, and then in 30 days it grows 80 feet tall.
Yep.
Sometimes that's life, man. But the question is, did it grow 80 feet tall in 30 days or 5 years in 30 days? Right?
Yeah.
That's powerful.
No, that is absolutely a great analogy.
So as we're coming to an end here on time, Ryan, anything else that you really feel that you want to share with us today, impart to us?
I think that I'll go back to the being fruitful and faithful. And so it's being fruitful in whatever you're going to do is what God's calling you to do, right? He's wanting you to be fruitful in marriage. He's wanting you to be fruitful in parenthood. He's wanting you to be fruitful in business. But it comes back to tying that to being faithful. Right? And I had lunch with Pastor Tom at the beginning of the year, and that's he had actually come up with that. He's like, you just need to continue to be fruitful and continue to be faithful. And it stuck with me when he said that. And so it's anchoring, like I told a God story on Tuesday at Bejo about the year I had in 2023 and at the end of 2022, and it took me 2 months to tell that story. Like I knew that as of January, whatever, but I couldn't figure out how to tell that story where I didn't feel like I was just talking about myself. Right. And so it was like, that's why I started with like, let me preface this with, there's only one thing It's changed, and it's God. It doesn't have anything to do with me, right? Like, I might be a little bit better at what I'm doing, but the only thing that's changed is God, is that I serve a higher purpose, that the end of the day goal is to use the skill set and the fruitfulness to build the kingdom and to be faithful, right? And so it's being faithful first to God, and then it's being faithful to your family, right? And so that's, to me, being faithful to Christy, being faithful to the girls. And that's not talking about like keeping my clothes on, right? It's talking about being faithful in everything that I do, right? So that can be, my alarm goes off at 3:51 in the morning, and I'm not super faithful to that one. The one that goes off at 4:01, that I'm a little more faithful to, right? But so it's being faithful, like, get your butt out of bed,
right?
The winter's the hardest time because it's cold and I'm nice and toasty under the covers.
You got a warm woman next to you.
Yeah, I don't want to get out of bed, and so it's being faithful. That's being faithful to go to the gym. It's being, Christy wants to, when I come home, she'll go do her workout. So it's being faithful of, I'm going to be home on time. It's being faithful of going to work, right? It's easy to go to work when things are going well. It's easy to go to work when you feel good, but get to work when you don't feel well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's being faithful with showing up for my kids. It's being faithful with doing what I'm going to say, which reminds me, I need to sew up a stuffed animal this evening. And so there's a lot of different levels of faithful that come to that, right? And then from there, the next level under that is business, right? So it's being faithful in business, right? I have people that work for me. I have people that I'm working for. I have people that I'm working with. And it's being faithful in taking care of those obligations that I have.
So good, man. Ryan, it's been an honor to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for your guest.
Yeah,
Thank you for showing up, man. Thank you for imparting wisdom into all of us today. We've sat down and, I've just had great conversations with you over coffee. And you've spoken wisdom into me. You watched me go through a hard season I remember, I think you had sat down to me and like, bro, when are you going to propose?
Yeah.
To that season, to asking for my now father-in-law's blessing, to not getting it and having to wait, to now marriage, to now walking up to me in church and, hey, that message already landed. You don't need to talk to your wife about it. 2 little nuggets like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man, and thank you so much for coming on here today. And I'm believing that lives have been changed. And my encouragement for you is that continue to do what's hard, because do not let age define you. Do not let time that you've wasted define you. Continue to press in, because the limitations we often impose on ourselves are self-made. Go till you find your limit. Yeah. Go till you push to the very edge, and don't let it be an imaginary thought of, well, I think I can probably make this much money, or I can be this fit, or I can be this level of a father or a husband. Actually go as far as you can in every one of those categories and push your limits to the point of where what you thought you could run 5 turns into 15. And then you hit 15 and you're like, I think I could go a little farther in every area of your life. And I just see you're a man of wisdom, but as you walk this out, your words will have more weight. People will want to listen to you more. I've always respected you, but even just your consistency in your fitness journey, I know everything I know today. Even what I see on IG, people see consistency, and consistency creates confidence, it creates trust, it creates credibility. And I respect you even more because of your consistency in such a simple thing as that. And then you look at the other areas of your life. I respect your consistency with your wife, your consistency with your kids. You're credible to me in those areas. So that's just my encouragement for you.
Thank you. I received that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
You betcha.
Let's go.
All right.
For everyone listening to this today, a lot of value. I asked Ryan a lot of rapid fire questions. I don't always do that either. And a lot of wisdom in there. And I just encourage you guys, what was one 2, 3 max things you got from this podcast episode that you can go write down and you can begin to implement into your life, maybe with some of the tips on relationships and communication and some areas of your life you could do better. That is my challenge for you. That is your homework, is to take at least 1 or 2 things from this podcast episode and actually go implement them today. Because I believe that fruit comes from that. If you just listen to this podcast, you just drive in your car, you just put this on like you do music, but you never actually take any of the wisdom you get, you never digest it, you never write it down, you never take action on it, then you're never going to see a transformation and a result come from it. Don't waste my time. Don't waste Ryan's time. Don't waste the thousands of dollars I spend to produce this, because I actually do this for you. Because I'm believing that if you caught even one nugget and you implement even 10% of it, that your life will be made better because of it. Go make today great.